Halloween horror stories. This is Horror Diaries. Like and subscribe. Story 1. The Real Halloween Murders of 1974, Halloween Night. 1974 in Pasadena, Texas. Streets lined with glowing pumpkins, the air thick with excitement and the faint scent of candy. Children in costumes ran door to door, their laughter echoing through the night. But for one family, that laughter would fade into horror and change Halloween forever. 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien was just another child out for treats. His father, Ronald, accompanied him and the neighborhood kids. The night seemed ordinary, until they reached a house with its lights off. No one answered the door, but Ronald stayed behind for a moment. Minutes later, he rejoined the group, holding 5 long pixie sticks candies. He claimed a neighbor had answered after all, handing him the treats through the door. No one thought much of it. Back home, Timothy couldn't wait to eat his candy. He chose the pixie sticks his father gave him. It tasted strange and bitter, not sweet. Within seconds, he was vomiting, convulsing, and screaming in agony. His father called for help, but by the time paramedics arrived, Timothy was gone. So the investigation began immediately. Police discovered the pixie sticks had been laced with potassium cyanide, enough to kill multiple adults. Each sealed tube was carefully opened, filled with poison, and resealed. It wasn't a random act of terror, it was planned. Detectives traced the candy back to Ronald O'Brien himself. He'd taken out massive life insurance policies on his children, over $60,000, just days before Halloween. He wasn't the hero father everyone thought he was. He was the killer. In 1975, the truth came out in court. Ronald had planned to poison both his children and a few others to make it look like a random Halloween tragedy, all for money. The jury found him guilty of murder and sentenced him to death. He was executed in 1984, maintaining his innocence to the very end. After that night, parents across America changed. Candy was checked, wrappers were inspected, and fear crept into every Halloween celebration. The phrase "check your candy" became a chilling tradition, born from one man's greed. Timothy O'Brien's death was no urban legend, it was real. The case remains one of the few verified instances of Halloween candy being poisoned by a parent. So when you unwrap that candy this Halloween, take a moment. Think of 1974. Think of the boy who trusted his father. Because sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones outside your house. They're the ones tucking you in goodnight. And that is the true story of the Halloween candy killer. Story 2. The Haunted Hayride of Sleepy Hollow. Every October, thousands visit Sleepy Hollow, New York, a place steeped in ghost stories and Halloween folklore. But one night in 2010, a popular hayride attraction gave visitors more than a scare, but something they still can't explain. The Sleepy Hollow Haunted Hayride was a beloved event. Actors dressed as ghouls, fog machines, eerie lights, all for fun. But that night, as the tractor rolled through the dark forest trail, something unscripted joined the show. Witnesses said it began when the wagon passed the old mill, a real 18th century ruin said to be cursed. The fog thickened, the air dropped cold, and among the actors in costume, one figure stood too still, too silent. Dressed in a colonial soldier's uniform, the figure didn't speak or move until the wagon stopped. Then he slowly turned his head, revealing a face pale as bone with hollow eyes that reflected no light. The crowd applauded, thinking it was a performer. But the staff would later swear no one was assigned that role. Moments later, the soldier vanished into the fog. Some thought he walked off the trail. Others claimed he simply faded. When the ride ended, a few guests mentioned him casually, until they saw the staff's faces. They realized what they'd seen shouldn't have been there. Local historians later revealed something eerie. The trail had once been part of a Revolutionary War encampment. In 1779, several soldiers were executed by hanging near that same mill, and one of them was buried in uniform. Since then, guests have reported cold hands brushing their shoulders, whispers saying "march on," and lanterns flickering to life with no one nearby. One group even caught what looked like a figure hanging from the trees in their photo, though nothing was there seconds later. The organizers quietly changed the route the next year, removing the path by the mill altogether. They never gave a reason publicly, but employees said the crew refused to work that section again. Today, visitors still claim to see the soldier of the hollow on cold October nights, standing by the roadside as the hayrides pass. Always silent, always watching. So when you visit Sleepy Hollow this Halloween, and you spot a man in old uniform by the trees, and don't wave, because he might be the one they never buried deep enough. Story 3. The Halloween Possession of Gary, Indiana. In 2011, a modest home on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, became known as one of the most haunted houses in America. Police officers, social workers, priests, all claimed to witness something beyond comprehension. And what began around Halloween would turn into a case of full-blown possession. LaToya Ammons moved into the small rental home with her 3 children. It seemed ordinary at first, until footsteps began echoing through the halls at night. Doors creaked open on their own, and a strange, oily liquid seeped from the basement walls. Dark figures pacing the rooms, whispering voices calling the children by name. But it was during a Halloween night gathering that things took a terrifying turn. Guests saw one of the children levitate, rising off the ground, eyes rolling back. The family fled the house. Police arrived and found something they couldn't explain. Their body cameras captured whispering voices when no one was speaking, and footprints burned into the floor where no one had walked. A social worker brought a priest, Father Michael Maginot, who immediately felt an overwhelming pressure inside the home. When he sprinkled holy water, the lights flickered violently. Then, in front of everyone, one of the boys walked backward up a wall and flipped over the ceiling. The event was documented. Even the hospital staff who witnessed it signed sworn affidavits. This wasn't hearsay, it was on record. Father Maginot performed 3 exorcisms on LaToya, 1 private, 1 public, and 1 final in secret. He said her voice changed, her eyes turned black, and something inside her spoke in tongues, a voice that wasn't hers. After the final rite, the sound stopped. The family moved far away, and the house sat empty for years. But the damage was done. Everyone who entered claimed to feel watched. In 2014, the house drew national attention. Even paranormal investigator Zach Bagans bought it, filming a documentary called Demon House. But after his own crew suffered strange accidents and sickness, Bagans destroyed the home, completely demolished. Today, nothing remains but an empty patch of land. Yet locals still avoid walking past it after dark. They say sometimes you can still hear a child's voice whispering from the lot, calling for help. The Gary, Indiana possession wasn't an urban legend. It was documented, witnessed, and recorded by the police, clergy, and government. Some say the evil left when the house was destroyed. Others believe it's still wandering the streets looking for another home. Story 4. The Ghost of the Halloween Party. It was Halloween night, 2005, Frederica, Delaware. A small neighborhood came alive with decorations, music, and costume parties. But for one house on South Market Street, the night of laughter would turn into something horrific, something the guests would never forget. Every year, residents decorated their yards with fake tombstones, spiderwebs, and hanging ghosts. So when neighbors saw what looked like a body hanging from a tree in one yard, no one thought twice. They assumed it was another Halloween prop. For hours, cars drove by. People took photos, even children pointed and joked. The figure hung motionless under the streetlight, arms limp, head tilted to one side. It looked so real because it was. When the sun rose the next morning, a woman walking her dog noticed something off. The decoration hadn't moved all night. She looked closer and screamed. It wasn't a mannequin, it was a woman. The body belonged to a 42-year-old woman who had taken her own life sometime during the night. She had used a rope tied to a low branch right in front of her home. And for nearly 9 hours, everyone believed she was part of the Halloween display. Local police later confirmed that dozens of residents walked past the scene without realizing the truth. One even complimented her realistic costume. The town was devastated when they learned what they'd really been looking at. The woman's name was never publicly released at her family's request, but neighbors said she lived alone and had been struggling silently. Her death became a grim reminder of how easily horror can hide in plain sight. In the years since, some locals claim the house still carries a strange energy. Streetlights near that tree flicker every Halloween night, and those who pass by late often report seeing a shadow swaying gently in the dark, just where the body once hung. One witness said she saw a woman's figure beneath the streetlight, motionless, silent, and when she blinked, it was gone. Another swore she heard faint sobbing near the yard even though no one was there. Today, the house stands repainted, the tree trimmed back, but locals still avoid it after dark. Every Halloween, without fail, someone reports seeing a shape, hanging, swaying, for just a few seconds before disappearing into the night. So the next time you see a lifelike decoration on Halloween, look twice, because sometimes it isn't decoration at all. It's the ghost of a night that was never meant to be forgotten. Story 5. The Halloween Night. He Never Came Home. Halloween Night, 2002, Minneapolis, Minnesota. A night filled with costumes, laughter, and celebration. But for one college student, it would end in silence. A mystery so strange it still haunts investigators today. 21-year-old Christopher Jenkins was a college senior, dressed in a Native American costume, a feathered shirt and moccasins. He went out with friends to celebrate Halloween, but sometime after midnight he vanished into the freezing darkness. Witnesses last saw him being escorted out of a bar, barefoot, coatless, and alone. The temperature was near freezing. Friends thought he'd gone home, but when he didn't return and his car remained untouched, panic set in. Days turned into weeks. The Mississippi River was searched, but nothing surfaced. His parents refused to believe he'd just wandered off. For 4 long months they searched, until spring thaw brought the truth. In February 2003, Christopher's body was found floating in the river, still wearing his Halloween costume. The police ruled it an accident, claiming he'd fallen into the water drunk. But his parents noticed something horrifying. His arms were crossed on his chest as if placed there. The coroner changed the report. It wasn't an accident, it was homicide. Christopher had likely been held elsewhere for weeks before being placed in the river, staged to look like a drowning. The case became linked to a chilling theory: the smiley face killers, a supposed network targeting young men across America, all found near water, all with eerie similarities. Some said it was coincidence. Others believed it was something organized and evil. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened that Halloween night, who he met, where he went, or why his body appeared miles away months later. Police remain divided, murder or accident. But one fact remains: Christopher Jenkins never made it home. His parents still visit the river every Halloween, leaving flowers by the water. They say they can still feel him nearby, like he's trying to tell them something. Christopher's story remains one of the most haunting Halloween mysteries in U.S. history. A reminder that sometimes the real monsters don't wear masks. And if you ever walk near the Mississippi on Halloween night, don't look down at the water, because something might still be waiting to come home. Story 6. The Westfield Watcher. The House That Watched. Back in 2014, just days before Halloween, a family moved into their dream home at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. But the dream quickly twisted into a nightmare, one delivered in a plain white envelope as with no return address. Derek and Maria Broaddus had saved for years to buy the house, a 6-bedroom colonial built in 1905, surrounded by quiet, tree-lined streets. But 3 days after closing the deal, Derek checked the mail and found a letter that began with 6 chilling words: "Welcome to the neighborhood." The writer called themselves the Watcher. The letter described the house in detail: the number of windows, the layout, and even the Broaddus children's names and ages. "I am the Watcher," it read. "My grandfather watched this house in the 1920s. My father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time." The family froze in fear. How did this stranger know so much? Days later, another letter arrived, this one mentioning the children playing in the yard. The writer asked if the family had found what was in the walls yet. Police investigated but found no fingerprints, no cameras, no suspects. The Broadduses installed surveillance systems, but the letters kept coming. Each one darker, more obsessive, as if someone was watching from the shadows. Neighbors were interviewed, handwriting analyzed, but everyone had alibis. The town grew tense. Rumors spread that the Watcher might be someone nearby, someone who'd lived on that street for decades. The Broadduses were too terrified to move in. They never spent a single night in the house. They rented it out, but even the tenants began receiving letters. One message simply read, "657 Boulevard is mine." Experts in criminal psychology called it one of the most disturbing harassment cases in modern suburbia. A predator who used words instead of weapons, fear instead of force. To this day, the Watcher's identity remains unknown. No arrests, no fingerprints, no closure. The Broadduses eventually sold the house, but never at peace. Today, the new owners claim they've never received a letter, but neighbors whisper that the house feels alive. That when you walk by it at night, you can feel eyes following you from behind the curtains. 657 Boulevard still stands, silent, beautiful, and watching. And somewhere out there, the Watcher is still waiting to write again. Story 7. The Man in the Mask, the Unsolved Halloween Murder of 1957. Halloween night, 1957. Los Angeles trick-or-treaters filled the streets dressed in masks and capes, laughter echoing down every block. But at one quiet suburban home, a simple knock on the door became one of California's strangest and most chilling murders. Peter and Betty Fabiano had just returned from a Halloween party. They were settling in when the doorbell rang. One last trick-or-treater, they thought. Betty opened the door to find a figure in costume, a brown paper bag over their head, a flashlight shining from underneath. The person said nothing, just handed Betty a candy bag. Then, as Peter approached the door, the figure pulled a gun and fired a single shot into his chest. He collapsed instantly. The masked stranger walked away, calm, silent, and vanished into the Halloween night. Neighbors saw nothing useful. No license plate, no face. Peter Fabiano was pronounced dead on arrival. It seemed like a random act, until detectives began digging into the couple's lives. They learned that months earlier, Peter and Betty had separated briefly. During that time, Betty had befriended a woman named Joan Rabel, a friendship that some believed had turned romantic. But when Betty reconciled with Peter, Joan was furious. Detectives traced the murder weapon, a revolver purchased by another woman, Goldine Pizer, a close friend of Joan's. Under interrogation, Pizer confessed that Joan had convinced her to kill Peter, calling him evil and a source of suffering. Goldine said Joan had given her the gun and the bag to wear as a mask, then waited outside in the getaway car. When asked why she did it, Pizer said she was under a spell, emotionally manipulated, and believed she was helping Joan escape abuse. Both women were arrested, but the truth behind their motive was never fully revealed. Jealousy, love, revenge? The case left more questions than answers. Even stranger, neighbors later reported seeing the same kind of flashlight beam near the Fabiano home in the weeks following his death. As if someone was still watching and still returning. The Halloween murder of Peter Fabiano remains one of Los Angeles's eeriest true stories. Not because of the crime itself, but because of how ordinary it began. A doorbell, a costume, a mask, and maybe that's what makes it terrifying. Because on Halloween night when the doorbell rings, you never truly know who or what might be waiting on the other side. Story 8. The Trick-or-Treat Murder of Lisa French, 1973. 9-year-old Lisa French dressed up as a hobo, wearing an oversized green parka, jeans, and a floppy brown hat. She was excited, clutching her pillowcase for candy as she left her home in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. It was supposed to be her first Halloween trick-or-treating alone. She told her mother she'd only go to a few familiar houses. But hours passed and Lisa never came home. Her mother began to worry when the porch light grew cold and the streets emptied of children. At first, neighbors thought she'd simply stayed out too long. After all, it was Halloween. But by midnight, police were searching every corner of town. The next morning, the search expanded. Volunteers combed fields, creeks, and ditches. Flyers went up. Reporters began to gather. The entire town, usually peaceful, was gripped with fear. A small child vanished on Halloween night. Then, 3 days later, a garbage collector noticed a suspicious bag dumped along a rural road. Inside was the body of Lisa French. She had been sexually assaulted and suffocated, her candy bag still clutched in one small hand. Police traced her final route, questioning everyone she might have visited. That's when they came to the home of Gerald Turner, an acquaintance of Lisa's family. He'd lived nearby and Lisa had gone to his door that night, expecting a friendly face. Turner claimed she'd stayed only a few minutes, but his story didn't match the evidence. After hours of questioning, he confessed. He admitted inviting Lisa inside and in a twisted act of violence ending her life. When panic set in, he hid her body in a garbage bag and dumped it miles away before pretending nothing had happened. Turner became known as the Halloween Killer. He was sentenced to prison, but over the years he was released multiple times on parole, each release sparking outrage and fear throughout Wisconsin. Lisa's death forever changed Halloween in America. Parents began inspecting candy, accompanying their children and setting strict curfews. Towns across the country introduced trick-or-treat hours, community watch programs, and even police escorts for kids. But for Lisa's mother, no safety rule could erase the loss. Every Halloween night, she left the porch light on just as she did the night her daughter walked out the door for the last time. Some say if you walk near her old neighborhood on Halloween, you can still see the flicker of that porch light through the fog, a quiet reminder of the little girl who never made it home. Story 9, The Zombie Costume Beating, 2011. Downtown Vancouver was alive with the pulse of music and laughter. Streets were filled with people in masks and makeup, dressed as vampires, ghosts, and movie monsters. Among them was 20-year-old Ashley Hindman, a college student who had gone all out that night, painting her skin pale gray and smearing fake blood across her face. She was dressed as a zombie. She had spent the evening at a friend's costume party, and sometime after midnight decided to walk home. The distance wasn't far, just a few blocks through a quiet part of the city. It should have been safe, but it wasn't. 3 men, also in costume, their faces half hidden under masks, surrounded her, taunting and mocking the way she looked. When she tried to push past, one of them struck her in the face. Then another joined in. Her zombie makeup began to smear, the fake blood mixing with the real thing. They beat her until she collapsed to the pavement. Then they left her there, half conscious, her costume torn, her candy bag spilled across the sidewalk. For nearly an hour, no one stopped. Most passers-by thought she was another Halloween prop or a drunk reveler playing dead. It wasn't until a taxi driver pulled over that someone realized the truth. Ashley was rushed to the hospital with broken ribs, internal bleeding, and a concussion. The attack left her in a coma for several days. When she finally woke, she couldn't remember the men's faces, only flashes of masks and laughter echoing through the night. Police reviewed hours of surveillance footage and eventually identified the attackers. 3 young men in their 20s. All had been drinking, and one admitted he thought she was joking around. But there was no joke, it was real. The photos of her injuries, once released, shocked the nation. The case became known as the zombie costume beating. It sparked a nationwide conversation about violence on Halloween, how the chaos, anonymity, and masks can hide real cruelty. Ashley eventually recovered, but she never celebrated Halloween again. She said that every time she hears laughter in the dark, it takes her back to that moment. The streetlights above, the sound of footsteps, and the feeling of being surrounded. It was supposed to be a night of harmless costumes and pretend horror. But for her, Halloween became the mask that monsters used to show their true faces. Story 10. The Missing Student on Halloween Night 2014. In the small college town of Charlottesville, Virginia, the streets were alive with music, costumes, and flashing lights. Students filled the bars, laughing and shouting as the night went on. Among them was a bright 19-year-old sophomore named Hannah Graham. She had texted her friends around 11:50 p.m., saying she was lost and trying to find her way back. It was the last message she would ever send. Surveillance footage later pieced together her final moments. Hannah was seen walking alone, wearing a black crop top and gold miniskirt, her arms folded against the cold night air. She passed a restaurant, waved to someone, and disappeared around a corner. Minutes later, another camera caught her walking beside a tall man in jeans and a light-colored shirt. He seemed calm, confident, and she seemed to trust him. That man was Jesse Matthew Jr., a former hospital orderly and taxi driver. Police would later learn that he had been accused in multiple assaults before, but never convicted. For days, hundreds of volunteers searched parks, fields, and riversides. Her parents appeared on television pleading for help, their voices trembling. Posters of Hannah's smiling face were taped to every lamppost in town. Weeks passed with no answers. Then in a remote field about 10 miles from campus, a search team found human remains. DNA confirmed what everyone feared. It was Hannah. Her death was ruled a homicide. Jesse Matthew was arrested in Galveston, Texas, hiding out at a beach campsite. When his DNA was tested, it connected him not only to Hannah's murder, but also to another student who had disappeared years earlier after a Halloween party. Morgan Harrington. 2 young women, 2 Halloween nights, both vanished in the same small city. The case exposed how predators can hide in plain sight, in crowds and costumes under the chaos of celebration. It changed how universities approach safety and how women across America began traveling in groups on Halloween. Hannah's parents later said they leave a single candle burning every Halloween night, not just for her, but for all the others who never made it home. Because on a night meant for make-believe monsters, the real ones walked among them, unnoticed until it was too late. Story 11. The Halloween Fire, the Devil's Night of Detroit. For decades, Halloween in Detroit wasn't a night of candy or costumes. It was a night of fire, a night the locals called Devil's Night. Every year as October 30th turned to the 31st, the city skyline would glow orange. Not from decorations, but from flames. Houses, garages, abandoned buildings, and torched one after another. It started in the 1970s, when the city was struggling with poverty and crime. Teenagers began setting fires as pranks. But by the 1980s, it was no longer a prank, and it was an epidemic. Hundreds of fires broke out every Halloween. Some were for revenge, some for thrill, others for no reason at all. In 1984 alone, over 800 fires were reported in just 3 nights. Entire neighborhoods turned into fields of ash. Residents stood helpless, watching their homes burn. Police and firefighters couldn't keep up. Sirens never stopped. The city looked like a war zone. Smoke rising into the black October sky, sirens echoing through empty streets. And in the chaos, people began to die. In 1986, a family of 4 was trapped when a nearby vacant house went up in flames, spreading to theirs before they could escape. Investigators never found who set it. The fire had eaten everything except the memory. To stop the madness, the city created a volunteer army called Angels Night. Citizens patrolled the streets watching for arsonists. For years, the fires declined, until 2010 when they spiked again. And still today, every Halloween fire departments across Detroit brace for the worst. Because though Devil's Night is said to be gone, the fear never really left. Ask anyone who's lived there long enough and they'll tell you. When the wind changes and the smoke starts to rise, you can almost hear the crackle of flames from those years. Some say it's the ghosts of the city's burned-out houses seeking vengeance. Others say it's just people, doing what people have always done on Halloween, letting the darkness take over for one night. But in Detroit, Halloween doesn't smell like candy or costumes, it smells like smoke. And when the sky turns orange, everyone remembers that once the devil really did walk those streets. Story 12, the Halloween Party Murder. It was Halloween night 2009 in Napa Valley, California. A quiet neighborhood, warm light glowing from carved pumpkins. 3 friends, Leslie Mazzara, Adriana Insogna, and Lauren Mayanza, shared a small cozy house on Dorset Street. They had spent the night handing out candy to trick-or-treaters, laughing, sipping wine, and enjoying the calm of the evening. Nothing seemed unusual, but by morning 2 of them would be dead. Just after midnight, while the women were asleep, someone broke into the house through a kitchen window. Lauren, asleep downstairs, awoke to strange sounds above her, a faint thud, then another. At first she thought the cats were playing, but then came a noise she'd never forget. A muffled scream. She froze. The screams grew louder, followed by the sound of breaking glass and footsteps pounding down the stairs. Terrified, Lauren ran out the back door and hid in the bushes, dialing 911 with shaking hands. When police arrived, they found blood smeared across the walls, a trail leading up the stairs, and 2 young women, Leslie and Adriana, stabbed to death in their bedrooms. The scene was brutal, it looked personal. Detectives began their investigation immediately, focusing on the people closest to the victims. There were no signs of robbery, no valuables missing, just rage. Days turned into weeks with no arrests, until DNA from cigarette butts found outside the house led police to Eric Koppel, Adriana's fiance's best friend. He was quiet, polite, and had even attended the victims' funerals. When questioned, Koppel confessed. He said he felt resentment toward the women, claiming Adriana's relationship had caused problems with his own. On Halloween night, as the town celebrated, he slipped through their window with a knife, killing 2 people who trusted him. The story sent shockwaves through Napa, a place known for vineyards, not violence. Neighbors who'd been carving pumpkins that same night couldn't believe a killer had been just a few doors away. At his sentencing, Koppel never gave a real reason. No explanation could make sense of what he'd done. He simply said, "I am sorry." But sorry doesn't erase the screams, the blood, or the lives stolen in one senseless act. The house still stands today. Locals say on quiet Halloween nights you can still feel an unease around Dorset Street, as if the air remembers the sound of those final screams. Story 13. The Orange Socks Killer. A cold gray morning in Georgetown, Texas. A highway patrol officer was driving along Interstate 35 when he saw something on the side of the road. At first he thought it was a pile of discarded clothes. Then he stopped and realized it was a woman's body. She was naked. The only thing she wore was a pair of bright orange socks. She had been strangled to death. No identification, no purse, no wallet, nothing to tell police who she was. She became known only as Orange Socks. Investigators scoured the area, checked missing persons across several states, but no match was ever found. She was estimated to be in her mid-20s. She had reddish-brown hair, freckles, and a faint tattoo on her hand. It was Halloween, and no one came forward to claim her. Months passed, then years. Her case grew cold. But in 1982, a drifter named Henry Lee Lucas was arrested in Texas on unrelated charges. During questioning, Lucas began confessing to dozens of murders across the country, some true, some not. Among them, he claimed responsibility for the Orange Socks girl. He said he'd picked her up hitchhiking near Oklahoma, argued with her, then strangled her in a rage and dumped her body along the highway on Halloween morning. Authorities, desperate for answers, believed him. Lucas was convicted and sentenced to death. But something was wrong. Evidence showed Lucas had been working hundreds of miles away that same day. Gas receipts and time cards placed him nowhere near the scene. He had lied again. The conviction was eventually overturned, but the woman's identity remained unknown. For decades, her case file sat in storage labeled Unidentified Female I-35, October 31, 1979. Then in 2019, 40 years later, DNA testing finally gave her a name. She was Deborah Jackson, a 23-year-old woman from Abilene, Texas. She had left home after an argument with her family and never returned. To this day, no one knows who killed her. Her real murderer is still out there, never found, never charged. Every Halloween true crime followers online remember her as the woman in orange socks, a symbol of how evil can erase a life so completely that even a name disappears. Some say when you drive that stretch of I-35 at night, you can still see her figure on the shoulder of the road, just standing there, barefoot, waiting for a ride that will never come. Story 14. The Murder at 37 Forest Street, Halloween 1981, Halloween night, 1981. The small, quiet town of Greenwich, Connecticut, glowed under the flicker of jack-o'-lanterns. Children in costumes ran from door to door, their laughter filling the autumn air. But at 37 Forest Street, a very different kind of night was unfolding. That evening, Father Francis J. Morrissey, a local priest, stopped by the apartment of Sister Tadea Benz, a kindly 71-year-old nun who lived in the convent next to St. Stanislaus Church. She didn't answer the door. By morning, she was found dead, brutally murdered in her own bed. Her rosary beads were tangled around her hands. Her body showed signs of a violent struggle. Someone had broken into the convent during the night. Police combed through the crime scene, stunned by its brutality. The killer had slashed Sister Benz's body with a knife, and there were signs of ritualistic behavior. Candles had been lit. Religious symbols were disturbed. It looked like an act of rage or blasphemy. As news spread, panic gripped Greenwich. The murder of a nun on Halloween felt like something out of a nightmare. For weeks, detectives had no leads. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no motive. Then, weeks later, police arrested a drifter named Johnny Frank Garrett, a young man with a history of petty crimes and mental instability. Garrett was known to wander the area, and his fingerprints were found on a window near the scene. When confronted, he confessed, but later recanted, saying he'd been coerced. Despite inconsistencies, he was convicted and sentenced to death. But even then, many people doubted his guilt. Years after his execution, DNA evidence was retested, and the results changed everything. The DNA found at the scene didn't match Garrett at all. He had been innocent. The real killer was never identified. Sister Benz's murder remains one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes to ever occur on Halloween night. The convent where she died still stands, its windows dark and silent. Local legend says that every October 31st church bells ring faintly at midnight, though the church has been long abandoned. No one knows who killed her, no one knows why, but the murder at 37 Forest Street remains a reminder that even on a night meant for make-believe horror, the real monsters sometimes walk among us. If you can see this, that means you have made it to the last story. Well done. Thanks for your patience. Now, Story 15. The Murder of Nema Louise Carter, Halloween 1977. It was Halloween night 1977 in Lawton, Oklahoma. The streets were alive with trick-or-treaters. Porch lights flickered, children laughed. And inside a quiet home on 12th Street, two parents tucked their little girl Nema Louise Carter into bed. She was just 19 months old, too young to understand what Halloween really meant. Her parents, Tommy and Glendine, checked on her before midnight. Everything was fine. The window was closed, the room calm and still. But when they woke the next morning, Nema was gone. No broken glass, no forced entry. Her blanket was missing too. Panic spread across the neighborhood. Police searched every corner of Lawton, backyards, ditches, abandoned houses, but there was no trace of the toddler. No witnesses, no ransom note, nothing. Days turned into weeks. The only sound in the Carters' home was silence. Then, in June of the following year, almost 8 months later, a boy exploring an abandoned house just 2 miles away found something wedged inside an old refrigerator. It was the body of a small child wrapped in a blanket. It was Nema, the same blanket she'd been sleeping in when she disappeared. Police determined she had been suffocated the night she was taken. The refrigerator door had been sealed shut. Detectives eventually connected her case to another child abduction that happened months earlier. A girl who had been taken and later found alive. The suspect in that case, a teenage babysitter named Jacqueline Rusher, had once worked for the Carter family. She was charged and convicted for the earlier kidnapping, but never confessed to Nema's murder. No one else was ever charged. The house where Nema vanished was eventually sold, but locals still tell stories about it. They say if you drive past it on Halloween night, you can hear the faint sound of a child crying. Soft, muffled, as if coming from behind a closed door. Nema Louise Carter's murder remains one of Oklahoma's most heartbreaking true Halloween mysteries. A night that began with candy and costumes, and ended with a silence that still hangs over the town to this day. 15 Halloween horror stories. Which one scares you the most? Drop in the comment box. Please subscribe and like this channel.